Hello, everybody. This is Answers of Life, and we are back with yet another rambling discussion for you. And don't forget to share with a friend if you've been here before and haven't yet, or if you don't like the videos that much, share with somebody you don't like that much. But either way, share with somebody. And today we have a special guest. I'm going to let Hamsa introduce her.
Yes, so my first official invitee to some interviews. We're gonna have Shruti. She is my daughter, or I'm very blessed to have her and her brother in my life. Her birthday's coming up soon, and she has a lot of wisdom to share. She does so at home and in school. She's grown up in a family, her parents and grandparents, we've all been practitioners of Bhakti Yoga. So that's what she's known her whole life, and she's attended a Montessori school, and she is an outstanding soccer player. She's a really rapidly progressing author or writer.
She's a prankster.
She is a prankster. She kicks butt at Fortnite. She loves Minecraft, and she's a very creative person, very artistic.
Yeah.
Very kind-hearted, and we're very excited. I'm very excited to have her here today to share her wisdom with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be our first interview properly done anyway, so I would definitely want to ask for forgiveness if we don't quite have it together yet. We're working these out as we do them. The first few might be not quite as perfected as they could be. But we can get into some questions for Shruti. Do you have anything you'd like to say to anybody before we begin?
Well, I think that it's really cool that,
Speak up just a little bit.
Okay, well, I think that it's really
Do you
cool
want to put
that
one
I'm
of
the
the
first.
mics on her? Maybe? Or no?
We can.
Yeah.
Just to be safe if you want. But anyways, you speak up. Go ahead and say what you're going to say. But go ahead.
Oh, well, I think that it's just really cool that I'm the first person that you guys are interviewing. And I'm happy to be here.
Good. Yeah, I know you've been wanting to come over and participate for a long time. We just have been trying to get our act together, and we just wanted to make it work out kinks and stuff, which we're still doing, but we're really happy to have you here, and you're always welcome to come back anytime.
All right. And we'll just let that sit here. No biggie. It's just running just as a backup mic, just in case. But just in general, both of you speak up just a little bit. Yes.
Okay, so I had some questions prepared, and I guess first I wanted to ask, would you like to tell us about you and what your story is, what has happened up until now to make you who you are today?
Well,
What are some of the more important things that you feel have been in your life to shape you to who you are?
probably my family. I feel like because I spend a lot of time with you guys, and so I think that really helped me. Because you give me a lot of advice, and so I think that really helped me to come up with advice for other people in school also. And also a lot of my friends helped me with things like problems, and I like to also help my friends, and so I think that's kind of just my family and friends are the people who kind of made me the person who I am today. Yeah.
One of the questions I wanted to ask was, I know some of her writing has been featured in the school newsletter.
Okay.
And so I wanted to ask, if you had your own life motto, what would it be?
Would be to, I bet this is used a lot, but it would be to like keep trying even though a lot of bad things will happen, to try to find the positive in every single situation that happens to you, because it's not like everything's gonna go perfect in your life, and like there will be bad things that will happen, and a lot of them will happen, so you kind of just have to find the positive of them and kind of make the most out of it and try to get through them.
What's one of the things that helps you find the positive in situations?
Krishna. I like to think of Krishna when something bad happens, and that kind of helps me think of all of the positive things.
When you think of Krishna, what is it you're picturing or thinking?
And by Krishna, for anyone not there, she's, that's our name.
It's the name. The name means the all-attractive one, which God is all-powerful, all-attractive, omniscient, all-knowing, all that stuff. So, but Krishna is just the main name we use, which is the all-attractive one because he attracts everything. But my question to you is like, are you picturing Krishna? Are you chanting something about Krishna? Are you when you say you think about Krishna, in what way?
I like to describe him
like in your mind to yourself, basically.
I think of how.
Which form do you usually go to?
His baby.
Baby Krishna, sweet baby Krishna.
Yeah.
Cool.
What about sweet baby Krishna is the most attractive to you?
I really like his probably his hair and his eyes. I think they kind of stand out the most.
His eyes and his hair. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Curly locks of flowing hair. And so when you think about him like that, so that brings you, like, as you think about him and as you dwell on him, how does that help you find the positive in the obstacles in your life?
Well, just thinking about him, it kind of just gives me joy, and so when I think about him, it makes me happy, and when I'm happy, I tend to think of more to the positive side of things, more the less than to the negative. So that's kind of what.
No, that's really wow. So thinking about him is one of the things that brings you happiness.
Yeah.
Okay, that was another.
What other things bring you happiness outside of that?
Like outside of Krishna, like
Right.
not him. Oh. Well,
Maybe, I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily not have anything to do with him, but I mean, like, what activities or things bring you happiness in general?
Yeah.
I like to chant also. When I draw, it really helps me because I like to draw what I'm feeling, and so it helps me express my feelings, which makes me happier. I like to play soccer because, especially when I'm angry, when I kick the ball, it kind of just makes all my anger go away. Because I put all of my anger into kicking the ball, and so then it would just all go away with the ball into the goal.
That sounds very meditative.
Yeah, therapeutic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Nitya sent me a video this morning on Discord of a vlog he did when he came up to visit in 2017. Did you watch it? I sent it to you on Discord this morning, but I didn't know if you went on there to see it.
I saw it.
You did? And there's a shot in there because he came up to visit in the middle of one of her soccer games. And there's a little clip where she's going 1v1 with another player, and the other girl goes to go around Shruti, and Shruti has this look on her face like, not today! And she comes after her, slide tackles, and just the look of intensity on her face, I was like, wow, that was like, he just caught such a perfect moment. It was really...
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you wake up, what's the thing you look forward to the most? This kind of ties into the happiness thing, but maybe there's some, maybe either daily or maybe there's a specific morning that was super exciting, maybe both. If you can share about what thing gets you out of bed in the morning, basically.
daily, I like to think about seeing my brother. Yeah. Even though we are kind of mean to each other sometimes, we have a really cool relationship, and so I like to think about him in the morning, and that gets me out of bed.
Okay.
And then there's certain mornings where I have plans with my friends, and that also gets me out of bed because I really like spending time with them.
Okay.
And so
That makes sense. Very cool.
Excuse me. You go to see Veda. How would you describe your relationship with your brother?
well, we argue a lot, but we tend to make up easily. Like, even though sometimes it gets physical, we'll like
Oh boy.
sometimes it will get physical, but like then we'll start just play fighting. It goes from being angry at each other to playing, and then like we'll start laughing, and then I don't know, it's just we have a really amazing relationship, and I'm really happy for him to be my brother. I can't really describe it in words. It's just like,
I understand. I think it's sometimes it can be a little hard to put some things into words.
yeah.
But overall, you think, how do you...
You think it's because you guys are able to be like very open about whatever your problem is, and then it's just dealt with? Like, because obviously if you have a problem with your brother, you guys just get into a fight over it, and then once the fight is resolved, then it's over with, as opposed to maybe with some people, obviously you can't always do that, so like sometimes you gotta keep things to yourself, and then it lasts longer, whereas when you can just like when you can communicate it, maybe whether it's violent or non-violent, but just the ability to like communicate that there's a problem, that you're not happy about something, that you don't have like a fear of communicating that with your brother. Whereas I think with others, and in some situations it may not be appropriate, whatever, like, you know, the politically correct, or, you know, the thing that you're supposed to do in that situation, like with the teacher or whatever. So like you can't always express yourself in that direct kind of a way.
Yeah.
Which would make sense why then you feel close to him, and it's not that big of a deal that you guys get into with each other sometimes.
Yeah. No, sibling relationships are interesting for sure. I feel what is a difference between the relationship you and Veda have, Veda being
Her brother.
Are there any like differences that you notice in your relationship that you don't see in some of your friends' relationships with their siblings?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, I tend to see that my friends don't really like spending time with their younger siblings, because I feel like a lot of my friends are older than me, and so they kind of find their happiness in other things, like playing video games or talking with like their other friends. But with me and Veda, we like to play fight a lot, and I feel like I don't really see very many siblings doing that. Like play fighting all the time and then having a good time and stuff. I also tend to notice that with my best friend and his sister, he likes to tease her a lot more. Although I do tease Veda a lot, I feel like he kind of just puts it all on his sister, even though it was really kind of his fault. But I don't really tend to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think I do, at least.
Yeah, no, I would definitely. I think that is definitely a good point that you make. Just from what I've observed of, you know, some of your friends, it does seem like even when you don't necessarily, obviously you don't always want to hang out with your brother, but I noticed that you two make the sacrifice a lot. And I've been trying to work with you on that about, you know, sometimes standing up, you know, because, you know, Veda he really looks up to you, and, you know, oh, I want Shruti to do this with me, and, like, there's times where she wants to do something, like, this happened the other day, I won't go into it, but, you know, she wanted to do something, he wanted to go on the trampoline with her, and then, you know, he starts kind of...
She wanted to do something else. So.
And so she feels bad
right.
at times that, oh, you know, I want to do what he wants to do so he's not upset. But, you know, I've been trying to just talk to her about, you know, rather than going along with it, because I notice a lot of kids do this. They go along with the younger sibling because they don't want them to whine and cry, because then they're going to go run to the parents. And but then I explained this to her. I said, well, then you're going to go with him on the trampoline. Yeah. You're going to be resentful of him. Yeah. Because you didn't say, hey, I don't want to do it right now, and then you know, so it leads into
an argument.
But
well, it also leads to long-term resentment, which leads to not a good relationship. Yeah. Because you're going along with something you don't actually want to do. Can you hand me those monitoring headphones real quick? I want to double check something since you guys are both. I just want to make sure the game's up. I should have thought about that before.
So moving on. So yeah, I mentioned that you went to, or you've been attending a Montessori school. I know now you're not doing the Montessori curriculum, but you were. How overall, how was your experience of Montessori school, like in the younger grades? How do you feel that it affected who you are right now? Like,
even though I don't like to call myself smart, I feel like...
Why not?
I don't know. I just don't really like to, because I don't think I am, but I think it did make me smarter being in a Montessori curriculum, especially in elementary school. I didn't really like it, but I feel like, because I had a lot of friends that went to like ALA or something, and then like Maji, she would have like a lot less easier work than I did, but I would understand the harder work instead of like being so confused about it all the time. I would actually understand how to do it. Okay. So I think it kind of made me more ready in that sense.
So it sounds like you had a lot more, compared to maybe some of the other like bigger schools that your friends go to, you had more time like with the teacher to help you understand the concepts that you were going over.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you feel about the very hands-on approach of the Montessori stuff, like the curriculum and how they are into? Do you really remember doing those activities and stuff?
Yeah, I do. They made it very fun, even though there would be like some boring things. They tried to make it as fun as they could, and then it would end up being fun. So I think the school that I am, or like the teachers that I worked with, I guess, they would try their best to like make it fun or a good time for the students, and I kind of really like that.
While also learning something.
So we would play like games, but it would be like about math or like science or something, or history.
Rather than just
learning about it, like
just do all these questions here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I kind of, I never went to a Montessori school, but we kind of all homeschooled in Gitanagri, and I feel like we, we're fortunate to kind of experience a little bit of that. I'm really, really happy that they have a school like that to go to, because I can tell.
Yeah, I didn't really do much school, but
yeah, so
I did 4 total years of actual school in the 12 years.
And then you homeschooled the rest, right? I remember.
Well, I mean, 4 public years. So, but I mean, I did very little work. Homeschooling was more reading and writing for me than anything else.
I mean, that's
I mean, I guess that's a better hobby than video games and whatever. I could have been doing less. The reading and the writing, I'm sure, still helped build my creative brain. Yeah. But I mean, of course, then you have to do some amount of math. You had to get the minimum amount of math work done in a year. But it was definitely more crunching the math out towards the end of the year and making sure it was all done. I was definitely not doing and the science and the economics and stuff. Forget about it. I mean,
I think the more important.
But I was bored in public school. I never got to experience the kind of school that she's getting to go to and the different experiences she's had, because I think a lot of the schooling in this country now, unfortunately, is based on memorization.
Yeah.
And not based on learning,
Concept.
First of all, being creative, thinking outside the box, thinking for yourself, learning how to politely disagree, how to have discussions when you don't think the same thing. And just like compassion, humanity, like how to be a human. Because you can have a computer that's going to give you a list of facts. You don't need to be a human that can give you a list of facts. What you need to be able to do is interact with other humans and build whatever your skill set is, and like figure out where your strong suits are. And I don't think our education system, at least at broad right now, is set up
certainly
in a way to encourage that in America. Yeah. I'm not saying that some kids don't figure that out anyway, or that maybe a lot of teachers would love to teach more of those things, and maybe some really good teachers find a way to anyway. But I think that the system is not set up.
The system is not
to reward that. There's a bell. It's like factory working type feeling. Yeah. Bell, go do this next, and then you do like this checklist of items. It's just, it doesn't feel like the system that I experienced, and then therefore, first of all, for one part, it felt a little too easy, and secondly, it also was very boring. It wasn't super. It just wasn't super tantalizing.
I think that the whole objective of the school system should be teaching kids how to learn more than what to learn. Because if you give the kids the tools, and this is my take on the Montessori system, is they equip the kids with the tools and the eagerness to learn. So like in the first class with the youngest 3 grades, they do work on letters and numbers and stuff, but compared to like grandma, she talks about her school, and that's they're heavily focused on just getting kids to memorize. Like now she's saying that they have a list of 500 keywords that they want all the kids to know, at least these 500 words by the end of the year. And it's like so what you're doing is approaching it as this is a bare minimum that all the kids need to know just to scrape through, versus equipping the kids with the curiosity to want to learn on their own.
Yeah, it just
doesn't
set up good.
School,
then there was a post I saw on Instagram that says, "What I learned in school: how to write in cursive. The Roman Empire is really big. What I wish I learned in school: how to set boundaries, emotional support, empathy, self-care, healthy ways to cope, how to do taxes, the importance of sleep, about abuse." Things that really that you, because they don't even prepare you. First of all, we also don't teach people about credit, which is a huge part of a society. There's a lot of little things that we just don't teach people, but we teach them how to do like memorization and different things of just like what you could, especially nowadays, you can Google anything you don't know fact-wise.
Yeah, that's true.
What you need to know is how to think creatively, how to use those facts and apply them to situations. And I think the application is not always there. You can be really book smart, but not have the street smarts to go with it. And they should be trying to teach people more of those street smarts type deal. Like, what does that fact mean for your day-to-day work? Because the amount of people I run into that aren't great at figuring out how to think outside the box, they're given like this is like the objective, and they just do like the things on a list. They can't think like, oh, well, the reason this is on the list is because of this. So in this circumstance, probably we shouldn't even do that, because the only reason it's there is for this. But people can't think outside the box like that. They're just like, no, this is a checklist. I have to follow it. And then we have the society that we have today.
You become like a robot.
Yeah, you're robots. You might as well
have
have a computer sitting there.
Teaching, if you were a teacher, what one thing would you want to teach your students that they would take with them for the rest of their life?
How to love yourself.
How to love yourself.
Damn, that's
big.
How to love yourself.
Because I feel like a lot of people struggle with that.
How would you do that? It doesn't have to be super specific, but at least sort of.
I think I would just try to set a path for them to try to find the thing that they like most. Okay. And like the things that they enjoy doing. And then kind of give them advice for like problems that they have in life, and then maybe they could find the rest of their way to kind of more loving themselves.
Give them the space to be themselves and feel appreciated for being themselves, basically.
Yeah.
So that they don't feel like they have to conform to whatever the classic straight A student or whatever the valedictorian like type of deal is, if that's the only. The other thing that's funny to me, before we move on from the schooling topics, is you see a lot of examples in the world of the super successful business people or sometimes people who didn't even finish high school. And to me, if you have a system that's set up that the really successful people, the people that win or beat the system to some extent, at least economically, financially, are people that didn't go through the system. Because they realize the system doesn't do anything for me. So, like, not to say that people shouldn't go to school, but there's a glaring, like, if those people didn't want to finish school because they weren't getting anything from it, and these are the people that are, like, the shapers and movers of our country to some extent, then it kind of sparks the question of what are we missing? Because why wasn't there anything you could give them, you know? Like, it's a common, in fact, for huge CEOs to have either had horrible grades in school or not even graduated. Not to say that none of them did. Some of them have, but like it's just a very common thing of like because they weren't interested in that kind of thing, but that doesn't mean they weren't smart. And I think that's another education system thing is like you could have a kid who's failing who's a brilliant kid. Yeah. But like for me, I started to get worse grades in 12th grade because I stopped caring. They weren't horrible grades, but they weren't as good as they should have been because I just wasn't giving a hoot. Like I aced all my tests and never did my homework, so I was getting like Fs on my homework and stuff. I did like 3 questions out of like 20 because I just didn't feel like doing it. But not to say you should do that, but like I just feel like for me, I felt so unchallenged that I just wasn't interested in it. Yeah, but you could easily look at those grades and be like, wow, he's not very smart. But like, or let's say I wasn't as good at testing, because some people aren't as good at testing. I'm just lucky that I tend to have a brain that works that way. If I had also been doing bad on tests, you could have assumed that I was an idiot. Like, oh, he doesn't know. That's true. You could horribly on tests and be a really genius businessman in 10 years. Yeah. So it's not even a good grading system, because what are you grading them on?
It's because the system is not designed to bring out people's this
strengths.
Reminded me, we can touch on this maybe in another episode, but I wrote this down. The system forces people to take roles outside of their dharma. And that's one of the things Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita is we all have our own, like, dharma is something that cannot be changed, but yet we each have our own, like, from my understanding, we also have our own dharma, the things that we are naturally inclinated towards. Yeah. Right? And so when you're in a career, you go to school, you're in a career, you really hate whatever it is you're doing, but you're doing it because your family wanted you to do it or whatever, you're not doing your dharma, therefore you're not happy, and you are miserable in your life, and it really, like, it really throws your whole life out.
It works for some of the kids, but not all the kids. Yeah. It's a system that works for a certain percentage of the children, and the rest of them kind of just have to deal with it, which is unfortunate.
No, it is.
It's not as flexible as it could be, I think. But yeah, you're right. We can talk about this more in another episode. We'll get back to Shruti here. We're getting a little bit off on track there. So, on that track of like understanding people and like giving people space to be themselves, what's one thing that you wish people understood about you that you maybe feel like they don't always?
That's a good one.
I would say pick something that maybe you feel like doesn't always come across. Something that you like wish people got, but they don't always get.
About you.
About you specifically.
Well, it's kind of a negative thing about me, but I have anger issues, kind of.
Okay.
And I feel like I get angry at people kind of easily, and then when I try to explain to them, they think it's kind of just an excuse, even though it really isn't.
Okay. So you wish people understood that you're that you have a lot of anger inside of you, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
or that you can.
There's a lot of bullying in school, so I just don't.
You get angry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. You know, it sounds to me from what you tell me that you often, stand up for your friends.
Good.
Or other people in school that you see that are being pushed around, and what is if you could give some advice to another kid out there who's being bullied or being teased in whatever situation, what would it be? Like, what advice would you give them?
Yeah.
You need to learn how to stand up for yourself and how to not let people push you around and think that you're like that you're kind of like a leaf, and so they can just like blow you everywhere that you want to go. But I feel like you should learn how to really stand up for yourself and how to make sure that people don't make you feel like bad in ways.
What is one, like, what, when you say stand up for yourself, what is, if you could give them a tip, like, or one specific area to work on?
Learn how to say no. Or learn how to say stop. Like.
Yeah, I mean, and saying stop doesn't always stop the bully. In fact, often it eggs them on. But I get what you're saying, but learn how to stand up for themselves. I think it also plays on what you were saying about what you'd like to teach people, which is the being comfortable with yourself, like loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I think the more you love yourself and the more you're comfortable with who you are, even if it's still developing, the less likely that bullies will, first of all, even bother you so much. And if they don't get a reaction out of you, a lot of times they'll move on. I mean, they may still say one or two snarky comments or maybe push you real quick and then leave. Like, they, it doesn't last very long if you don't give them anything to, like, combat. And so I think it plays into the other thing that you said you wanted to teach was, like, the loving yourself, being comfortable with yourself. I know that when I was in school, I remember there was they call this ishcons for some reason, but, so they have an H in there.
Ishcons!
But somebody said something about me about being an ishcon. He's like, hey, you're it. Or he's like, hey, ishcon. And I was just like, it's pronounced Iskon, there's no H. And he's like, what? I'm like, it's pronounced Iskon, Iskcon. And he's like, oh. Like, he was just so thrown off that he, like, forgot what his intent was when he walked in the room, like, to be rude. And he was kind of just like, huh. And then that kid was, like, a kind of a jock type kid who wasn't really my Aaron, he was a big jock, big build guy, like, very big. Like, he was a little chubby, but he was real big. No, this was in school. And he was in 12th grade, and I was in 12th grade, but he didn't like reading. And then he became fascinated with how much I liked reading. And then he became friends of a sort. Like, we were like acquaintance friends, But I remember once in gym, somebody wanted me to eat meat. We went to the locker room, and somebody was like, you should try this meat. And it came with me like a beef stick. I'm like, I don't want to try that. And I don't know what would have occurred, because he was like coming at me. I have a feeling it would have just been like us being rude to each other for a minute until the gym teacher came in. But out of nowhere, I just hear this, like, booming voice from, like, the door of the gym, and he's just like, leave the Ishcon alone! And Aaron's just standing there, just like, and the other guy's like, all right. And then he walks over, and he's like, I can tease you, but ain't nobody else supposed to mess with you like that. I was like, thanks.
Oh my god, that's like
he was
straight
kind
out
of like
one of them prison movies, man. God.
He was just like, that's my Ishcon. But, like, we became, like, kind of, like, friendly,
Yeah.
And it was, like, I think partially, like, my reaction to his attempt to tease me was so just like, oh, that's not how you say it. Like, I didn't even address his tone or, like, the fact that he clearly was trying to be, like, something. I was like, oh, yeah, no, it's actually not. Because I was comfortable with the fact that I was different than them. I knew that I was different. I believed different things. They might think I was weird. Like, I knew all of that, and it didn't bother me to think that they thought I was different. In fact, I kind of thrived on it. Not everybody's like that, but I'm like, cool, I am different. Yep. And, I enjoyed being different, which helped me, I think, deal with other instances like that, too, where the little things. But when I was your age, too, I had an anti-bullying gang. There was, like, 4 of us, and we would bully the bullies to keep them off everybody else. Not that you should necessarily do that, but... And we didn't do anything crazy to them.
In the schoolyard.
At recess, there was a kid named Christian. He was always, like, messing with the girls, pulling their hair and doing, like, obnoxious things. And sometimes the boys, too. And he would try to bully me. But, I mean, I was always hanging out with my friend. I had another friend that was super skinny like I was. And then we had 2, like, bigger friends. And there was, like, holes in it was like a big soccer field kind of thing. Or, like, a baseball field down there. And there was, like, spots that just were not even. Like, it hadn't been leveled out properly. It was just, like, a little, like, dugout, almost like a quick, like, boop. But some of them were, like, pretty big size. Like, you could fit a person in this little hole. And then from a distance, you wouldn't even see that person was there because it's just, like, grass, and, like, this dip. So I would, like, we put him in there at least once. We put him in one of those. And then Christian, the other Chris, my friend Chris, this big guy, just sat on him for a while. And I was like, I'm not letting you up until you agree to behave. And then the recess monitor even looked over and, like, waved to us, and we just waved back. But it just looked like he was sitting on the ground from her perspective. so we just, like, kept the peace in the playground. But we never did anything super crazy. Yeah. I never, like, hurt him. It was more just, like, getting him to stop. And also it kept him bothering us and not bothering everyone else if he was going to bother someone, because he kept being annoyed that we were getting one over.
Some kids can just be real...
He was an unhappy kid. That's the other thing you have to understand is a lot of times when bullying is going on, the bullies are not typically very happy people. There's a reason they're lashing out in that way. Not to say that it makes it any nicer that they're doing crap to you.
No, it's not an excuse, but that's one thing I've tried to, I guess, talk to the kids about, that, like, even the people that are being mean, and cruel and nasty, they're still human beings at the end of the day. And, not that their behavior is good, but oftentimes that behavior is coming out because exactly there's some, underlying stuff going on with them that is causing them to lash out like that at other people. And it's kind of a shame, but
I mean, you can't change that in a lot of circumstances, but I think it's knowing things like that too for children. It helps to know that the bully isn't like doing it because there's something wrong with me. Like they know, and not saying there's anything wrong with the bully, but like the bully has their own issues they're taking out on you.
Yeah.
And I think that also helps to distance you from it. Like, oh, okay, it's not about me.
Yeah.
And so it helps to maybe, to some extent, to not feel as burdened by them being rude to you or whatever. I mean, of course, if they're being super physical, that doesn't help that much in that sense. But if they're just being like annoying or mean with their words, then I think it helps take some of the power out of them to some extent.
I have a couple more here. Going back to your brother, Veda. Two questions. I'll ask the first one first. What is something meaningful that you have learned from your brother?
I think you should ask the second one first. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I think it would have to be, it's always the first one, whichever one you ask. Meaningful.
Something meaningful that I learned from him. Well, I think I learned how to be more creative. Even though I've always been a creative person, he can just play with his fingers and then he'll have like a good time. And so I think that like...
So specifically imagination.
Yeah, he just made me be a little more creative
So
and artistic in that
he's
sense.
helped to spark your imagination.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
And what is something meaningful that you think you have taught your brother and that you can see,
I think I taught him how to be kind to others. Even though that's kind of like a basic thing that everybody learns, I think I taught him kind of at an early age to be kind to others. Because Amaya is like my little sister to me, so when he would like be rude to Amaya, I would say, Veda, that's not really nice. Let's try being nice to Amaya. And I think that he's been a lot more nicer to kids because...
You taught him how to think about how other people feel, basically.
Yeah.
She taught him empathy.
Yeah. So,
How to take into consideration how other people might feel.
for others,
Nice.
sparks, and sparks.
Okay.
And then, what? Hold on, I'm trying to go through because I didn't ask them in order necessarily. I wanted to ask one. Could we ask that? If you were a teacher, tell me about a time when you conquered.
Well, what about... Oh.
Here. This was another one I want to ask you. Would you tell us about a time where you successfully conquered like a fear of something and then did it and either experienced success or improvement, if that makes sense?
I don't know if this is really what the answer that you wanted, but I think roller coasters maybe. Or also another one is back to the bullying thing. I think bullies also. I think I've gotten a lot of improvement to be more mindful of like how they're also thinking instead of just like taking consideration of only my feelings. I like to think about their feelings also, so it's not like I'm straight up mean to them and I like yell at them and I scream at them to try to get them to stop, but I kind of just like, I think I do it in a nice way to where it's not like they get mad at me for saying that. I think I kind of improved on doing that because I have a cough stuck in my throat. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's okay.
Want some water?
Yeah. Cause that helps. Cause I also used to get bullied, and so
Mhm.
I think, and I used to think that it was only his fault that he was bullying me,
Mhm.
and that he was just mad at me for like something that I did to him.
Right.
But then you kind of started to talk to me more about how maybe he had problems like with his family or like at home or something.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that kind of taught me how to think more of other people's feelings and like
While also thinking
specifically-
about
yeah.
you, but trying to It sounds to me like what you're trying to say is that you've learned to try to see where they are coming from and why their actions
Exactly.
are the way they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something I'm proud of myself for improving at.
In the next year, what one thing about yourself would you like to see the most improvement on? This time next year, what is one thing you'd like to look back and say, I'm better at this than I was a year ago?
Oh wow. Probably my anger. I feel like I need to get better at that. Because I don't like how I kind of just am mean to people for no reason because I'm angry. Maybe it's something that they did to me. But like I kind of tend to hold a grudge against people and I don't want to do that anymore. I kind of want to stop doing that. And so I feel like
That's a
next
great thing to
year
work
I
on. I think a
feel
lot
like-
of people. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, continue.
no, it's fine.
So next year you would like to see a lot of progress in that.
Yeah.
What is something that you think you can do? What is something you think that you can do to start taking you towards that goal?
I think I want to try to learn how to forgive people, kind of. Like, I don't want to be, like, completely forgiving to the point where I'm, like...
A doormat.
Yeah, where I just let people do whatever they want to me, and then I say, oh, it's okay, just stop doing it, and then they do it again, and I keep saying that. But I think I just don't want to be like, oh, you did this to me, I never want to be friends with you ever again. And so I think I just want to try to forgive people more easier. And I feel like that will kind of, that's like the main thing that will bring me to that.
Do you think that maybe some of the anger that you have comes from maybe some of the difficulty? Like it sounds like you sometimes have difficulty standing up for yourself to your friends or to family or whoever and telling them, no, I don't really want to do this.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe some of the anger might come, like,
Good.
Are you angry? Like, I'm trying to think of how to say it. Like, are you angry with those other people? Or do you feel like some of the anger is directed at yourself? Or is it a combination?
That's a good question.
I think maybe a combination, probably. Because, like I said, I hold grudges against people, so I tend to think that it's also their fault as well as mine. So it's like there's two sides of the story, kind of. But, yeah, it's just kind of...
Okay.
Yeah.
I highlighted the questions we've asked her already. I was just making sure it showed up on your phone. So
Oh,
I'll help
okay,
you
okay,
pick through
gotcha.
them.
Let's see. Another one I wanted to ask was, what, in your opinion, what is your greatest strength?
Oh. It's something I need to work on for myself, but I think my greatest strength is probably standing up for other people. Because I think I'm really good with that. It's like I see someone maybe getting pushed around and I tend to like try to tell the person that's doing that thing to the other person to like, I think I just tell them to stop and then I think they stop.
Sometimes you can be a little intense.
Do you think
For standing up for your friends, I've noticed that. Not in like a bad, overbearing way, but you get very...
I have a question about standing up for other people.
Yeah.
Do you think when you're standing up for other people, it's when you stand up for other people, is it always if are they always being bothered, or is it when you see something that you think would be bothersome? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of my friends, I guess I'm kind of the person that a lot of my friends can just talk to, like, about their feelings.
Right.
So I kind of know what bothers them and what's...
So it's not stuff that would bother you, it's stuff that you're sure is bothering them when you stand up for them. So if somebody did something to somebody else that you wouldn't like, but you know they don't care, then you wouldn't necessarily you wouldn't be standing up for, you wouldn't, like, get involved, because whatever.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to annoy the person, not get
Right.
them mad at me.
Right.
So.
Which is good, because that means you're also employing empathy in that too, because it's a lot of people actually get offended on behalf of others and the person's not even offended.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question for clarification. But that's a good thing to be aware of, is always making sure you're interceding only when they're actually needing the interceding, and not when you would have wanted it.
Yeah.
Because we say treat each other how you want to be treated, but there's, like, you know,
Yeah,
that means be respectful to one another. Not that we all need the same things, because of course we're all different. Yeah.
So
That's
you
good.
mentioned that your friends really like to
Standing
talk
up
to
for
you.
others.
Why do you think it is that your friends seem drawn to you in that way?
I think that they probably see me as very trustworthy, because when they tell me
Because
something...
of all your anger issues.
Okay. Well,
Not to make light of them, but you know.
no, but I think
Laughter is the best medicine.
when they tell me something, I tend to not tell other people unless they ask me to. And then I try to give them the best advice that they need for that moment, or if they don't need any advice at all,
You
I
don't
try
give
not to
any.
give it.
So
That's
you
That's
are a
good.
good listener.
Yeah.
It seems like you really listen to them.
That's
and
the
they
most
feel
important
heard.
thing, because a lot of times we can get into too much advice giving,
Yeah.
and even if I tell you something that worked for me, even if it was a very similar situation, that might not even work for you anyway.
That's true.
So advice often is not even needed. The listening, the holding space for people, and then sometimes you can be like, well, you could try. Have you thought about this, or what about this? So, you can have some discussions. But, like, I think that's really important what you're pointing out, is that you're not just giving unwanted advice to people all the time. Like, when people ask you for it, you're there.
Yeah.
And if they don't ask you for it, you're just kind of supportive. And that's really important, because I can't tell you how many people don't know what the line is. I myself sometimes don't find that line where I
me
need to.
neither.
I definitely can err on the side of giving too much advice to people when what they need is me to just tone it down and just listen.
I know, me too. I've
I've gotten better at, like, noticing it, but it still happens. Like, every now and then, especially if I am feeling like, actually, like, it depends on how much emotions are involved, but especially if I'm a little emotional too about it, or, like, wanting to, like, be there for somebody, it's easy for me to, like, go too much with advice when, like, that's not what they needed, you know? So that's really important. That's really great that you're learning that at a young age, and you're already thinking about it, because even if you cross a line sometimes, if you know there's a line, you can adjust as needed.
Yeah.
Which is really great.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the things I struggle with sometimes, is that when people come to me with a problem, which
You tend to give advice.
Shruti and I, in that aspect, I think are very similar, because, like, a lot of people at work tend to come and tell me stuff about, like, personal stuff going on in their lives, and I'm like,
out of nowhere.
yeah, and I'm like, I don't even, like, I don't hang out with you outside of work, and I care about my coworkers, but they'll come to me, and I think one of the things I'm trying to work on this is trying to be able to know what, do you just need me to listen to you?
Yeah.
Or are you asking for advice?
Right.
And I tend to not ask them, what is it that you want?
Right, you don't
Thinking that,
clarify.
maybe they might get offended if I
Right.
say, do you, because I don't want to come off as, do you want me to try to help
Well,
fix the problem?
the way you ask is obviously very important.
So
but
that is one thing I know I need to work on.
Sometimes you just ask, like,
Yeah.
I think as long as you don't do it in an aggressive way, it's
yeah.
just like, are you wanting me to, like, give you suggestions or advice, or are you just wanting me to listen? And they can tell especially if you've been there for them a lot, then they know that you're just double checking. Or you may be able to just tell if you get out of your own head for a second. You may be able to just tell.
Speaking of friends, let's see, there's a couple.
Well, I wanted to end with the what makes your friends thing.
Okay.
Can we start with the what were the top 3 memorable events from your visit to Vrindavan with your family?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was a good
Top 3 moments of going to Vrindavan, India. If anybody doesn't know where Vrindavan is, it was like a holy pilgrimage of sorts.
Yeah.
With the family, they went there. So share with us.
There is one specific memory that I remember, and it's with my dad. I remember that we went to the temple kind of really late. It was like 11 or something.
Yeah, for a 24-hour kirtan.
Yeah, and we went there and we stayed there for like until like 1 or 12 in the morning. I don't really remember, but I remember kind of just trying to be very quiet entering the house. But I don't know. That just like it's always been in my mind ever since I've thought about Vrindavan. Like that's the one memory that I kind of
Just
that
being,
was one of my
being,
favorite memories.
being out late at the temple with your dad. Very nice.
And it was really fun also.
Yeah,
Nice.
I remember
Sneaking
that.
back into the house.
Yeah, it was. We went there, and Madhava Prabhu was leading that kirtan.
Yeah.
Madhava Naidu.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like his kirtan.
yeah, it was. Yeah, there was only a few, maybe like not even 20 of us in there. It was like a lot. The temple room was empty. Yeah, it was. That was
just
very
really fun.
nice. So that was okay. So
That
that
was
was
my
number
top
one. That was your
memory.
top. Wow.
And then my second memory, I remember meeting two people from England that became my friends. They were two girls, and I met them at the park that I forgot what it's called, but we went to a park like every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the MVT.
Yeah, we went there at, like almost every single day, and then one day I just saw them there, and we just started playing, and then we became friends. So I also remember playing with them at the park.
Okay. And
Last
your third one.
My third one would be all of us having breakfast at the MVT.
MVT breakfast.
It's so good. But yeah,
Yeah, those
I
were
really remember those.
My favorite memory of you guys being in Vrindavan is when Veda, or you called me. Veda took over the phone call and asked me when I was coming over like 4 different times, and I kept telling him I couldn't come over because he was like a long,
On the
far,
other side
very
of the
far away. And then when he
remember that,
finally realized that he wasn't going to convince me to come over, he just hung up.
Yeah.
And then Hans called me back like a minute later and was like, hey, he handed me the phone and said, I did the bye-bye. He was like, I'm done with you. You're not coming. I'm moving on. But then he came over, got the phone again, and started showing me the monkeys. He was like, oh, you're back? Okay.
Yeah, we went.
You guys were feeding the monkeys
we
and stuff.
fed
That
the
looked really
monkeys
fun.
every day.
Yeah, that was also
that was
really fun.
fun
I remember
too.
that also.
Yeah.
That was
Feeding
a funny
monkeys.
memory.
That was.
Next time you guys go, maybe I'll go with you.
Oh yeah,
You
that would
should.
be awesome if we could all go together. Oh my.
I also remember being with Mama Shara and flying the drone with Nitya.
Oh,
Ah.
flying the drone.
Even though that was like 6 memories.
That's
But-
okay.
So we have 2, I think, winding down questions to wrap up the podcast for today.
Yeah.
And the first of them would be, for me, you can add in whatever. If you could share one thing from your experience of Krishna consciousness with the whole world, what would it be? And then the next question, just so it can be on your mind, would be share some appreciations about your friends, what makes them really awesome, you know, what you appreciate about them, what you love about them, and we'll end with that one. But what did you want to throw in there, or at least that
it's
could
a
be,
random question, but I wanted to ask this because her and I were talking about.
is it on there? I just don't want the
Yeah. It was on here. The animals and communication, because we have 2 cats at home.
Okay, ask
And
that first.
so I
wanna
wanted to
end with the
ask-
appreciations.
How do you feel that animals communicate? And do you think, like, not just with each other, but also, like, do you feel a connection with, like, our cats? And like, what is your sense of that connection that you have, the personal connection with the animal, and how do you think that they communicate with each other?
Well, to answer with that first question, yes, I do think that we communicate in a way, but the way that we communicate, at least this is my personal thing. I tend to, like, when I spend time with them, I feel like if I ask them a question, they'll either meow at me back, and I kind of just know what they're telling me. Or when I'm petting them, if they like purr or they like put their hand like against their head against my hand, I think they're also trying to tell me something, and I don't know, I just feel like I understand them what they're doing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I know. Our cats, you know, not to go on a thing, but they're very,
Fluffy.
yeah, especially Fluffy. Like, she's very motherly to the kids. Like, she comes and lays down with them at nighttime, and then when they fall asleep, she'll
But
get up and
Oreo
leave.
does the most.
Oreo, yeah, they're very,
Both of them.
Yeah, they're awesome. But anyway, to you.
Yeah, so I think to wrap it up then, start out with something you'd like to share with the whole world if you could about Krishna consciousness. One thing, try to make it, as concise as you can, but something that you would like to relay about your experiences with Krishna consciousness to the whole world at this point in your life.
And or life, maybe. Or Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Krishna consciousness is specific, because we talk about what she could teach people if she was a teacher,
true.
So I think that's similar enough to the other one.
Wow, I would say there has been many instances where I've had panic attacks, but I feel like when you're in distress and you think about Krishna, you really feel his presence there, and so you tend to just feel better. So I think when you are feeling sad or something is wrong, I think you should kind of tend to think about him instead of something else, instead of thinking, oh, how can I make myself feel better? Even though you should think about that also, I think the first thought should be about him, because it will just make you automatically feel better.
Feels Krishna's presence in distress. Yeah, her and I last night on that note had been kind of talking till, what time did
Like
12
o'clock.
o'clock? Yeah, she came into the room and then we just started talking about this. It was really nice.
I did dream.
Yeah, I asked her about a dream, or she was telling me about a dream that she had where she was really feeling distressed in this dream, and then Krishna came and she said
he hopped off the altar, and I was like, then I remember chasing him, and then that's really all.
Yeah, but then you made a comment and you said to me something like, I don't remember verbatim, but you said something like, I feel, Krishna's presence when I'm upset or whatever, but then when I'm happy,
I don't.
I
tend to not.
You tend to not, right? And then
I tend to think of the moment.
Yeah, and one of the things I said to her that I wanted to share was, it's great. It's great that you think of Krishna, or tend to go to that when you're in distress, if that's what makes you feel better.
But we should all kind of think of him always.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately the goal, is to think of him not just when you're in distress, but think about him when you're happy,
sad.
and to kind of, I guess, give a little reason as to why, I asked her why, what does thinking about Krishna bring for you when you're feeling distressed? And she says, it makes me feel, calm and happier.
Right.
So I said, if you're feeling distressed and thinking about Krishna makes you feel better, imagine how thinking about Krishna when you're happy
how much more
it will
difference
enhance the happiness.
I think an important thing to mention here, just to say that I think a large portion of the thinking about Krishna is realizing that we're not in control and surrendering, which brings the peace and the feeling of like you feel less burdened by everything, because you realize you can't control the world anyway, and he is the supreme controller. Because otherwise, it's something we're saying, just by picturing something, that everything goes away. I think it's important to specify that it has to do with, I think, that surrender in your heart, even if it's just a little bit of the surrender that we need, you still brings a lot of peace for us to think about Krishna and realize that he's the only one that can,
he's the supreme
that
controller,
can alleviate whatever it is we're going through at the end of the day.
Very deep.
So we'll end the podcast here. We're running close to when that might start, when our time limit on the recording might go.
Did you have another one that you want to ask?
But I wanted to end with the friends, something about what makes your friends so awesome, what do you appreciate about them, some appreciations about your friends for the next couple of minutes before we wrap up.
Well, I have 3 friends that I'm the closest with, so I guess I could call them my 3 best friends, but it's not like I have them at a ranking, but I feel like there's one that really helps me a lot more than the other 2, and it's my only girl best friend, because I feel like we're both the same, we're both girls, and so I think we tend to understand each other a lot more.
Sure.
But with her, I think she's very supportive, and she really wants to know what's going on in your life, so she can try to help you, or so she can just listen to you. And I think that she's just a very fun person to be around, and I don't know, she's just like my best friend. Even though I've known her only since kindergarten and I've known my whole entire life, I feel like I have more of a stronger connection with her than my other ones.
If you could, on that, so if you were able to, what do you think would help you strengthen the connections, not just with your other two of the trio, but all of your friends?
Right.
Or any of the people in your life? What is the
I
thing?
think maybe if they got to learn how to be with each other more, because I feel like the boys think that Mira, my girlfriend, my friend that is a girl, they tend to think that she doesn't like them, or that they also think that she's a little too girly. I'm not trying to like start an argument with them, but they say like all the time that, wow, she's just very girly and you're more of a tomboy, and so we really like hanging out with you. And I kind of think if they had
Give her a
more,
chance.
if they had more bigger eyes to see that she's a very fun person to be around, then I think
you also don't want to be
we
around
would
people that are identical to you anyway. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it more interesting.
Hanging out
If
with
somebody's a
them.
little different, you get a different perspective.
Yeah.
But I know at a certain ages, you're kind of focused on what you're currently into, and it's like 5 things, and you can't be bothered to think about anything else sometimes. But I think with time, you'll notice as you get older. I think that will work on its own. Especially boys, as they get a little older, they pull their heads a little bit more.
It seems to me that from like the conversation,
Out of
when
their
I pick
ears.
her and her friend Kumari and her
Or
cousin Shri up from soccer,
Yeah.
sometimes they'll grumble about the boys, and like it's just so funny because I remember being at her age, and you know the way we would talk about the girls and like the view of 11 and 12-year-old boys on girls and their relationships with girls are so much different, and girls at their age, at the same age, are like, now that I actually, I never had a sister, so I didn't really get to see an intimate kind of girl's perspective on boy friendships,
Yeah.
So
it's really cool, but
it
can be kind of intense sometimes because like we're just like with my friends that are boys, we're very different, but we have a lot of things that we enjoy to do together, like soccer. We all really love soccer, but
Shared
like
interests.
they don't like. Well, I don't really like wearing dresses, but I don't know. They just don't like girly things, and it's very hard to try to have fun with all of them when they just don't want to talk to each other because they just don't find the same interests.
It creates kind of like an awkward situation.
Yeah,
where you feel like you're stuck between.
Also, like there's you are a girl, so there's aspects of you that might want to be girly sometimes, and that's okay, and that's normal. And that's so there's part of you that maybe doesn't feel as accepted either, which probably is part of the frustration. I think again as they get older, but also you just be you. Don't worry about them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also they're very fun to be around. They're really. I feel like I don't want to be mean, but I feel like boys are a lot funnier than girls.
Funnier?
Or more funny, whatever.
No. I just meant like they are more humorous. Is it because of how ridiculous, goofy they are?
How
and,
dumb we are.
Dumb we are. That was the word I was gonna go with.
How dumb we are.
Yeah.
Dick-headed.
Sometimes they can make very unintelligent decisions, and it's kind of funny how they react to them. Like there was this one time that one of my friends wanted to jump off because we went to the skate park, and he wanted to jump off one fence to go across the other fence. Oh. And I was like, you shouldn't do that.
Something right up our alley,
You shouldn't do that. And then he tried it, and he almost fell, and then I don't know, he's a very interesting person.
On dumb things, I mean, I can't say much because I bent a tree. You know the thinner trees that are more like that. They're like a tree. They're like a full-on tree. It's not like a bush or anything. But like I was up one big tree, and I wanted to go to the other big tree, and there was a small tree in between. And so I bent it in half somehow with like my foot, and I thought I was gonna get on it and walk across this bent tree to the other tree. And your brother Dhruva was down below me on the ground, like, "I don't think you should do that." And I'm like, "No, I got this." And he's like, "Oh!" And I got on the tree, and I think I took about 2 steps. And then it just it was like the whole time it was like trying to go up because it's meant to be straight. So it's like moving around, and I'm like 1, 2, and then woo, and down. And I bounced off like 3 different trees on the way down, and just like landed on the ground. I think it was like maybe like a 10-foot fall. It wasn't crazy, maybe a little bit more than that. And I'm just like laying on the ground. He was like, You alright? It's like, yeah, it's not a good idea.
Dude, we're so fortunate we made it through our childhood without like.
I don't know how I never
None
broke
of us
anything. I really don't know
that
how I
can think
never
of
broke
ever
anything.
like broke bones.
I have no idea.
I don't remember any of us ever being in cast. I mean.
I never. I've had some sprains, but I've never broken anything,
Yeah.
and I don't know how in the world that's true because I have done some nutso things.
I think
Well,
it's just
also-
because we did so much crazy
I
stuff
think-
that our bodies were kind
Well,
of
they were used to it, and I want to say
like,
too that I remember reading a book sometime where they're talking about being relaxed when you're falling. It means you take less because if you're tense, you're more breakable. So if you're more fluid, then you'll just kind of bounce around. And I'm not gonna say I could completely be fluid because I think that's like a whole nother level of like monk type situation. But I do remember like knowing that. So when I'd fall, I would try to be as
thanks to
relaxed as I
Nung
could.
teaching
Yeah.
us how to freaking, you know.
But I'm not saying
Yeah.
that girls aren't also dumb because
Yeah.
No,
I
of
think
course.
that also the more time that I spend with my friends that are boys, the more dumber I get also. 'Cause
Yeah.
I make a lot of stupid decisions.
We all do.
sometimes.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
We
that's
all do.
something that is not only relegated to childhood.
Nope.
That is unfortunately
Get ready for the rest
a
of your
part
life.
of the life process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that every year you look back and go, wow, look how much I didn't know back then. And then the next year
Actually,
you feel
on
the
that
same
note,
way.
one last question. I know we're.
Yeah,
we'll
we
have
might
to
be about
have
to
her
run out of
back
this
for
mic.
another follow up.
Okay.
Well, I guess a two-part question. If you could go back in time
Mm-hmm.
and tell your younger self one thing,
Mm.
teach your younger self one thing that you know now, what would it be?
Try to understand my friends that are boys a little more because I feel like sometimes we have a lot of fights a lot. We get like very, very intense fights a lot. But I think it's because I don't fully understand
Oh,
boys
okay.
because
Where they're coming from.
I'm not
Gotcha.
a boy, and so.
Right. You get to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But now I kind of know a little bit more where they're coming from because they talk to me also.
Right.
So.
What was the second part of your question? Because I think we're literally might
yeah,
be about to end on that.
And the next part would be if there is one thing that you could say to your 30-year-old self
Ooh.
right
Dang.
now. So you at my age, imagine right now I'm you at 30.
Okay.
What is something that you would want to tell your future self to remember from your childhood?
Actually, tell the camera.
Oh yeah, tell the
Okay.
camera.
Hi, camera.
That's your future
Yeah,
self.
that's your
right
future
there.
self.
You can
There.
watch this when
Okay.
you're 30.
Yeah.
So.
Hi, Shruti.
Hi. Okay,
Okay.
but I think probably you should remember this your whole entire life, to get along with people, because I feel like the more that I see you, you're very outgoing, and so you get to I don't know, you just get along with people, and I also want to learn how to do that. So I think that I am going to learn at a young age how to get along with people, and then you have to remember it.
Okay. I
Very
mean, I
nice.
feel like
Very
you're that. Thank you for
She's
sharing
already
that.
working on that a lot.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you said here that you enjoy standing up for others, you want to improve on your anger.
You're employing empathy
You're
already.
employing empathy already. You have an imagination, and your friends really trust you and see you as a great listener. I feel like you have the tools already. Some of the most important tools.
Your next challenge is to see if you can get the friends to get along as a bigger group.
I think, and then
That'll
also
teach you
the other
more
thing that
empathy.
you said you wanted to work on was establishing boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think
That's good.
that's also pretty crucial. But if you implement all of those
That's
things,
good.
I mean, I feel very. I think one of the things I worry about as a parent is that
If you feel your kids.
that's I worry about
You
that all the
won't
time.
fail
What if
me,
I'm a
man.
failure? What if I inadvertently teach my kids or don't teach my kids something that's really important, and later on they
Oh.
resent me
Yeah.
for it, or not resent me for it, but like, wish, I wish my parents would have taught me that, or
Right.
I think
that's like being a parent is hard.
Yeah.
I think you taught me everything that I need to know. Although there's more that I need to be taught, I think you taught me a lot of things that I need to know at this age, at 11 years old.
Well, you know,
That means a lot.
Yeah.
And your mom and I really, we are very fortunate to have a daughter like you.
Oh, that's fun.
I feel very blessed. I know your mom feels blessed.
we wear out. I can't record again, but that thing just ran out. Let's go ahead and record one more time. First, let me save it. Save it. And then
Why are they called my songs?
because it's a default.
Garage band.
Oh, it's supposed to be a. Oh.
Yeah, it's for making like music and stuff.
Well, maybe me and Amir could use it. I said, maybe me and Amir could use it.
Garage band?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it on your iPad.
I have it. It comes with your
Oh.
iPhone or iPad, but I deleted it, so I have to reinstall it.
Okay.
We
Go
still
ahead.
have to make it quick, even though we have like another.
Yes. Yeah, we need. What time is it?
So just go ahead and say you
Alright.
appreciate. You were
Yeah.
saying what you appreciate you and your
Yeah.
wife.
You know.
Appreciate about having her as a daughter.
Yeah, we. I see. You know, I feel that you are, you know, very quickly becoming a strong-willed, self-respecting young woman, and I think that, you know, I feel that you know, you have, I don't know, I don't really know how to put it. You have
Ability? I don't know.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like, you know, the more I've worked on deepening my relationship with Shruti, the more I can see that she grows, and also like you.
The reciprocation is there.
Well, reciprocation, but I like some of the things that I fear, you know, as a parent.
Yeah.
That, you know, I may fail in certain areas. Even things that like you know, I can see from your actions and from your words and what you're, you know, that she's really. You're on the right track.
Well, failure is part of
know.
life too, and they have to
Yeah,
experience
and
some of that.
failures
They have
are
to
very-
see that and see that you can grow from it and learn from it, because otherwise you're not preparing her for that aspect of life either.
Yeah.
So it's all part of the.
Yeah, I
all
think
part of
that's
the
one of the
process.
hardest things, as you know, from the parent side of things now, is, you know, learning how to balance. You know, I want more than creating rules that I want the kids to follow these rules. Like, I want them to learn for themselves.
Yeah, what we were talking about earlier with the education system, thinking outside the box.
Yeah,
Learning how to
or
employ
you know,
empathy,
things like even, you know,
curiosity.
responsibility, or you know, money.
Money management.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I yeah. Anyway,
How to survive in the world?
Yeah,
How to survive
that's what
in the
he's
world.
that's what he's trying to say.
yeah,
But-
you know, because there's a lot of things that I feel, you know, they are, thankfully the school they go to, they're learning some of these tools, which I hope just helps make up for any inadequacies on my part that I know darn well are there. I just hope that your brother and you.
I will also step up and teach Veda a lot of the things that you taught me. So he'll be just like me when he is my age. Even though I'll be like 17.
Isn't that crazy? When Veda is your age, you're gonna be.
17 or 18.
Yeah. Wait, you're 12.
I'm 11.
He's 6, 5. Yeah. Oh my god.
All right,
What is happening to the time?
time goes by. Speaking of time, it is time that we end this podcast. We're well over our hour time limit, but this has been a great conversation, and we can
Yeah.
continue it at some point in the future.
It's because I'm so inspiring. You guys have so many questions to tell me.
Well, no, this was
Ask me.
great because I made notes so that I feel we have, you know, kind of some angles that next time you come
Yeah,
back,
we can talk
we
more
can
about it.
pursue
Don't plug that quite yet,
more.
'cause he's-
and
Yeah. Absolutely.
maybe it'd be cool if we could get your mom in here as well at some point, and that way she could ask
Yeah.
you some things, and
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what we can definitely do something again. In the meantime, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, and we appreciate everyone, and feel free to comment or share. Like I said in the beginning, like, subscribe, follow, depending on where you're watching this. And yeah, as always, send it to people. If you haven't sent it to people, like I said at the beginning, send it to your enemies, send it to your friends. It doesn't matter to us. Whoever you want to send it to, however you feel about the podcast. Sharing is caring. So, you
Or
want to
not
say one last
caring.
thing, or are you?
Oh yeah.
Also,
Oh yeah. Is there anything? Yeah.
One last thing.
One
You want
last
to leave
thing.
one last thing with them?
I'll try not to be cringy, future Shruti.
Cringy
There's
future.
nothing cringy.
All right. Well.
No, it's just like because I'm making videos.
Oh,
I don't want to
well,
be embarrassed.
That's okay. That's
later
just part of
in
If
life.
there's one question that you wished we had asked you, or that you would want us to ask you, what would it be? That you feel
How
like
is
you
it like? How is it like being an 11-year-old and having a lot of social media? Because you asked me that the other night.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Ooh,
That's an interesting
alright.
question.
So, as an
Write it
11
down.
as an 11-year-old,
What is it like with all
what
social
do you
media?
how
Okay.
yeah, what
That's a
is
good
your
question.
experience of social
Internet
media, and how
in
do you
general.
think internet, social media being the connectedness, how do you feel it's impacted how do you see it impacting kids in general, like among your friends and you?
Yeah, that would be a good question to ask me.
I asked it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to answer it right
Yeah.
now. Oh well, I think it kind of gives a big effect on kids. So I think they should really. I think the internet or the government or whoever is controlling all these apps, I think they should really try to restrict age or like put age restrictions on everything, because you could pretend to be like a 14-year-old even though you're like 7 or something.
So you feel
And you could just see things that you're not really supposed to see.
You're not ready to see. You're not prepared to see. I think this is a long discussion that we
Yeah,
should
this
probably
is
get into
something
on
we
her
could do,
next
yeah.
on her next one. Because if we get into this now, it's
Yeah,
gonna be another
no, for
25,
sure.
30-minute
So-
conversation. So
we can follow up with
we should continue this
social
conversation.
media
But I think that'd be a really
and-
good starting place for the next time you join
Yeah.
us, maybe in a couple of weeks. And with that,
Bye.
adios.